All right, so let's start this broadcast with the big story that we're tracking on WION, and this, of course, is of India's Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla, who visited Washington to meet with the top US officials to discuss the bilateral ties and also the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. Now, this, of course, is perhaps the first high-level discussion between officials of the top two countries after the US withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, Shringla's much-awaited visit has come ahead of a possible month-end visit by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And India's top diplomat has called on the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Thursday and discussed bilateral ties and also the Afghan crisis. Shringla, who arrived in the US capital on Wednesday, met with the Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman. And according to reports, Shringla and Sherman held constructive discussions on a whole host of different issues and shared priorities including healthcare, defense, security and also climate laws. Discussions included other significant topics like continued coordination on Afghanistan and also strengthening of the Indo-Pacific cooperation through Quad. Meanwhile, Harshvardhan Shringla on Friday addressed the members of the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum to discuss India's economic recovery and the current pandemic situation in the country. He's also thanked the American business community for their support during India's devastating second wave of COVID. All right, now to get us more insights in terms of what this visit of Harshvardhan Shringla means, we are joined in by WION Siddhant Sibil, who's joining us live on this broadcast. Good morning to you, Siddhant. So what is the latest that we can expect of this visit by Harshvardhan Shringla to the United States?
Well, Mohammed, the visit is almost coming to an end. This was a week-long visit in which he visited two cities, New York and then Washington. We saw earlier this week on Monday, specifically, the Indian Foreign Secretary holding a meeting, presiding over a meeting as the chair of the UNSC on Afghanistan. And we also saw a resolution which saw support of 13 countries when it comes to the UNSC, while two countries, Russia and China, abstained. And then, of course, the focus visited on the bilateral component of this visit when he visited Washington, meeting, as you pointed out, with the US Secretary of State and the Deputy Secretary of State, Wendy Sherman. And what is interesting and important is that it is the first high-level visit by an Indian official after the fall of Kabul to Taliban. In fact, even as we speak right now, the Minister of State in MEA, Meenakshi Lekhi, is in New York, and of course she will also be taking part in deliberations at the UNSC. But nonetheless, this visit also comes ahead of the US the visit of the Indian Prime Minister. He is expected to visit the country not only for the UNGA high-level session in New York, but also for the expected Quad meeting. There is, of course, no confirmation as of now on the Quad component of this visit, given the fact that the Japanese Prime Minister is facing his own political issues domestically. So whether the Japanese will participate or not depends, and that, of course, depends on the larger Quad meeting as well, the first in-person Quad meeting. But nonetheless, this visit was to make sure the visit of the Indian Foreign Secretary was, in a sense, a precursor visit to a larger visit that is expected later this month.
Absolutely, indeed. Now, one of the key aspects, what is happening in Afghanistan will have a ripple effect on the region at large. At this point of time, India has kept its cards very close to its chest in terms of its Afghan strategy. Is there a possibility that Harshvardhan Shringla would have been discussing this aspect with his American counterpart?
Well, Afghanistan is such a big issue that wherever you see, whether the Indian External Affairs Minister, who is right now in Europe, in Slovenia, where, of course, his meetings were dominated by Afghanistan. In fact, he met the European foreign ministers. There was an informal meeting in Slovenia as part of Slovenian presidency of the European Union, and he, of course, believed the Indian perspective, or whether it is in US, in Washington, where the Indian Foreign Secretary is present, and Harsh Shringla had a number of meetings, as we pointed out, and during those meetings as well, Afghanistan dominated the discourse. What next in Afghanistan? Everyone is, of course, waiting and watching, especially when it comes to India's perspective. We know that India and the Taliban had conversations earlier this week. And of course, interestingly, Turkey has welcomed it. The Turkish envoy speaking to WION welcomed it. But this is, of course, a significant development given how the relationship has been in the past. But under the new envoy, we know that a number of steps have been taken to improve the relationship. But talking about Afghanistan, this is a development that is being keenly watched. What next in Afghanistan, especially when it comes to government formation? We can expect some kind of announcement when it comes to government formation. And of course, we know it's the Iranian model which will be followed. But how successful Taliban will be when it comes to governance is the big question. They have been fighting almost for many, many years now, for decades now. But governance is a tough task, and it looks like Taliban will need some expertise, especially from the regional countries.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Siddhant Sibal, for joining us and getting us all those insights there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.